Hey, what's up? My name is John Patrick Morgan, and I want to share with you a distinction that I shared recently in my Creator Circle, which is a group of clients that I coach. And it came from my own realization that I didn't have much distinction between the ideas of acknowledging and referencing. So how this came up is I saw the opportunity to talk about my mentor and the impact he was having on me. And I saw that I was not actually taking that action and holding back. And when I looked at it, I looked deeper and I was like, well, I had this concern or worry that if I acknowledged him, that I'd be basically saying that like he helped me to come up with this idea. I didn't come up with it myself. And the deeper down behind that was like the fear that like I'm not enough to come up with my own ideas. And so therefore I don't want to acknowledge and reference other people to, because then other people will know that I'm not enough and I don't come up with ideas on my own, right? Like I don't have enough value in myself. So I want to hide that by not acknowledging / referencing other people when I share an idea that came through the work that I did with them. And I say acknowledging / referencing because I had basically related to this experience using those words interchangeably. I didn't have much distinction. I thought at that point to acknowledge, to reference is kind of the same thing. But what I was doing is I was confabulating two different things. I didn't have distinction between them. So I want to distinguish them for you today as an idea. This isn't the truth. This is a way of distinguishing acknowledgement and referencing that has value and that creates possibility. Okay, so this isn't the truth. This is a way of looking at it. I don't know that there is a truth, but what's useful is looking at things in ways that give you access to choice. And so the way that I figured this out was to start to look at the words that I was using interchangeably. And I looked and I thought, well, how are they used in books? Because those are both words that come up in books. And I noticed in most books that I looked at that here's a book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. Great book. I've read it a number of times. Got the hard copy. You know, when you get the hard copy, it's a good one. Michael Singer. And so in the front of the book are the acknowledgements. And at the back of the book are the references. And it's not a rule, but in most cases, acknowledgements come at the front and references at the back. And it's like, what's going on here? So these acknowledgements are thank yous, right? They're based, thank you for the impact that you've had, how you've helped me to get to this point of creating this book. And in the back, the references are like, this idea came from this place, okay? So there's a difference between acknowledgement and referencing. And you can acknowledge people for the ideas, or you can reference them for the ideas. And what's the difference? The difference was for me is that when I was referencing somebody, it was saying that like that idea comes from you, not from me. And so it's not my value, it's that person's value. And so I'm just a pass-through for it. The value's over there, I have nothing to do with it. And so that's that. Joseph Campbell said in, somewhere he said it in one of his audios I was listening to, he said, you can tell the maturity of a university professor by the number of references that they have at the end of their publication or their book. And it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek way of saying that like people that are referencing loads and loads of other people, they don't really have a maturity to stand on their own work. They say, these are my ideas. They have to create the certainty and their safety through an abundance of references. And that, of course, spoke to me with my own concern or fear about not being able to stand on my own ideas. It's crazy, but it's just that's what was there. Just being honest. But then I remembered that when looking at this, he didn't say you can tell the maturity of a university professor by the number of acknowledgements they have in their book. So as references in particular, in that sense, and look, this doesn't mean that the only reason to reference is because you're afraid you can't stand on your own 2 feet and you don't have your own ideas. A great reason to reference is just to give credit where credit's due, but also to create a chain of understanding where the sources are for things so that people can follow the thread. I love looking at the references, follow that. What's the next book I'm going to read often comes from there. But a reason that people reference also is because of fear. You can do it as an act of love and creation, but you can do it because you're afraid that you can't stand on this without references. So it's kind of unnecessary referencing. And that's what I thought I was doing when I was avoiding acknowledging / referencing with my mentor and in other places I've discovered since then, but this was the way in. And so having that distinction, it's like, wow, so acknowledging is different than referencing. Acknowledging is saying thank you. Referencing is saying this idea came from somewhere else. Because the truth is, a lot of the stuff that I share is not directly from my mentor or the places that I learned. I take stuff into me, I live it, I see it It becomes me, it becomes my reality. And once an idea goes in me and I metabolize it, as far as I'm concerned, I own it. And so there was also the fact that it was like, well, to reference that person isn't really true, actually, because I've metabolized this, I've turned it into something else, and it's my own language, and I own it now. So it was like, it wasn't right to reference. But I was mixing it up with acknowledging, and I was missing the opportunity to express my gratitude. And so by seeing that distinction, it's like, wow, I can acknowledge all day long. I can acknowledge all day long for the impact that people had on me, for the food that you gave me that I metabolized and have now created this with. And so I suddenly had choice. I distinguished acknowledgement from referencing. Acknowledging is about saying thank you for the impact you had. Reference is about saying it's not my idea. And so by having that choice, that distinction, I was now able to express my gratitude, and I am able to express my gratitude in so many more places. I acknowledge a lot more now than I used to. And I'm not so worried about not referencing because I know the ideas are mine. And when the idea is not mine and I can see that, I'm very happy to reference because I know that's not an acknowledgement. It's not about me. It's not my idea. I'm referencing it, and that's easy. So I hope this is helpful for you to see some distinction between acknowledgement and referencing. And if it is, and you start acknowledging more, you're in for a treat. Because one of the things that I didn't realize until I started doing it is that acknowledgement is not just something that gives somebody else a gift. It's freaking weird, but as you acknowledge people, it gives you power. It's like giving people the gift of acknowledgement has you receive value, both through your doing it. Of course, you love on anybody, you feel loved. You can't love somebody without experiencing loved. But actually, like the places where I've acknowledged people have been the places where I've actually received the most energy back from the universe. Let's say it in a little more like specific and tangible way. Articles that I've written where I acknowledge people are the ones where I get the most engagement. Videos where I've created that I acknowledge people are the places where actually I receive new connections that lead to business. And so acknowledgement is actually a way to create in. It looks like it's out, but it's a way to create in. It lifts you. And I've talked about this before, how acknowledging gives you power, but it's kind of the bonus on the other side of this distinction. Now that you have choice between acknowledging and referencing, I hope that it sets you free to acknowledge more, and I look forward to you experiencing the value of being lifted through your acknowledging. I encourage you to do that. Look, where are you holding back from acknowledging / referencing because you think that those two things are the same? Now you can see them as different. Liberate the acknowledgement. Enjoy the rise in value that comes your way through doing that. If you'd like any more support than just watching my videos, then be in conversation with me. We do that best and most frequently in Creator's Circle. I'm with you in conversation every week for a year. It's the most life-changing experience that you can have with me. There's loads of my clients talking about how great that is on my Facebook feed and comments on my videos. You can read about it at my website, click the link wherever it is, and let's talk if you're interested. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Most of all, thank you for being here, for watching this video. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.